Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Anseo.
Councillor Heaney.
Anseo.
Councillor Hutton.
Anseo.
Councillor McDade. Councillor Mooney. Councillor O'Farrell. Councillor Neelis.
Apologies.
Thank you, members.
Thank you, Stephen. Item 3 on the agenda is the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the chamber or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded only to have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website, derryservan.com. Item 4, as always, is declarations of members' interest. So if people can declare verbally at each item or on the chat box if you're joining us online. Item 5 is on the agenda. We're supposed to have a deputation from Retail NI. They're not here, so we'll probably skip that. But I would probably ask the director or Stephen to chase that up because it's useful. You know, they've got the 5-point plan about re-energising the high street, which would be really useful in terms of breathing life on the our city centre in Derry, Servan, Castlederg, etc. And there are some asks of Stormont, and if implemented, it'd make it a lot more business-friendly environment. So if we could chase that up, please. Chairperson's business. I've had nobody contact me about chairperson's business. I've got a couple of items that I just want to briefly mention. I saw there was statistics released by Nazareth today about claimant counts, about employment statistics across the north. One that struck me was that there are 700 more people employed across our city and district compared to September last year, which I think is a real success story. Obviously, there's work that needs to be done about bringing better jobs, higher paying jobs to this city and district, because we're still the second lowest council area in terms of wage levels. But I think that is encouraging in terms of the local economy. I'm not going to say we're thriving, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. I also want to touch on yesterday's announcement about community wealth building. There was an announcement that the local partnership and the counterpart in Larne are going to receive £300,000 in funding. So that's £150,000, which is going to support the already vibrant social enterprise sector across this city and district. And I would hope that that investment reaps dividends. And hello, Glenn. And the final item that I just want to raise is it is October, and in the Northwest, October can only mean one thing, and that's Halloween. So we've got the world-class Halloween festival coming to this city and wider afield at the end of October. It's a fantastic showcase for the city and district. There's going to be thousands of people lining the streets. There's going to be thousands of people in our bars, restaurants, hotels. It's going to be a fantastic, fantastic experience. And in advance, I would like to thank everybody who's had a role in organising that. I'm sure it's going to be a really, really great experience for everybody. And it's something that we, as a council, can be really, really proud of. So those are my items in terms of chairperson's business. If anybody would like to comment, Alderman Hussey.
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. As not a member of committee. Just to comment on your last one there, it also means in Castlederg the Apple Fair and Halloween Hoolie. And I'm sure there are other places outside the city with Halloween celebrations that deserve support just as much. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Anybody else? Councillor Heaney?
Thanks, Chair. No, it's just again on the same issue, and it's just to remind the committee members that there will be an international delegation holding its meeting at the same time as the Halloween festivities are happening. That was deliberately timed for that reason. The mayor's kindly agreed to host a reception. It's Airnact, but it's a wider European network, the AMC, that's all coming to the city to do their meeting and also see what Halloween in Derry is all about. So just encourage members if they can able to attend that reception. I'm sure Stephen has the details, then they should do so. So that's it, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Heaney. And could Councillor Alex Duffy's attendance be recorded as well? I'm just going to bring the director in for probably 2 items there, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the last point from Councillor Heaney, so the Airnact reception is at 4 p.m. on Thursday the 30th in the Mayor's Parlour / Whittaker Suite. So we'll circulate that to members of the committee. The other thing I needed to raise was just in terms of November's committee meeting, because it coincides with the trip to the Golden Bridges, Boston. We need to move it from the 11th to move it back a week or forward a week to the 18th back a week. So it'll be just to get members' approval to move it to the 18th of November. Committee section are fine, they can cover it, but we have to approve it here. If everybody's happy, we'll move that date. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So is everybody happy? Is everybody content in terms of just moving the November date? No dissent?
Let's stay on.
So we have no further items in terms of Chair's business, and we've got Glenn Roberts here from Retail NI. You're very welcome, Glenn. So you're here to speak about your 5-point plan, and just take it away. So you've got 10 minutes to speak, and then we'll open it up the floor for comments and questions, if that's okay.
Well, Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. I mean, nobody could, speaking about your last item there, accuse Derry Strabane Council of being scary, but you know, your Halloween festival is world class, and in many respects, you know, when we're reflecting about the future of our high streets, it's no longer just retail or hospitality we're selling. It is destinations, it is experience, and what you do in one sense there shows is something that you can't get online, and certainly grows in strength every year. But listen, thank you for the opportunity to talk about our 5-point plan. Really, just to give you some idea of why we produced this. This was really on the back of a survey which we produced from our members following the decision to increase national insurance at the last UK government. There are already very high rates bill that many of our members pay, and indeed many of the other cost issues as well, because it's not just a cost of living crisis which our members face, it is indeed a cost of doing business crisis. And you'll find our members, mostly independent retailers in every village, town and city. So it was important that we did that survey. And maybe some of the results, just to highlight that 74% of our members saying that they will reduce the number of employees and cut the number of working hours of remaining staff. And in one sense, you're looking at our current unemployment figures, and sadly is increasing, that bears that out. 86% said that any plans for expansion has been cancelled or indeed postponed. And I think our message is very clear to all levels of government that they must take this cost of doing business crisis seriously and listen to the genuine concerns of our members. And very much we were very active both at the Labour conference. We did a very big event there where we were pushing very strongly that this budget next month has to put growth and support for small business independent retailers at the heart of what it does. We're also engaging with the executive as well, working with the finance minister. We have put forward a number of things in terms of rating policy which they could adjust that wouldn't cost anything. You're familiar that there is a small business rate relief scheme which is 15,000 NAV, which gets you 20%. At the minute, that covers every small business. My office in Belfast gets it, the MLA's office gets it as well. So what we've suggested that the minister target that scheme as it is in other parts of the UK, that rates relief scheme should become a high street rates relief scheme, and you target the rates relief towards independent retail, hospitality, and leisure. That is a broadly accepted principle. So what you're doing is you're targeting the scheme, you're getting more rates relief to more businesses, and indeed ending the vacant property rate, which effectively is where the executive is subsidising dereliction. And that rate is somewhere in the region of, I think, about 30 million. That money could be put into living businesses and supporting the mainstays of our high street. There are things like a scale-up rates relief scheme, which we're keen to advance with the executive. And that would mean that if a business doesn't have to be retail, is expanding what they do, creating more jobs, that they should be given between 3 and 6 months rates relief. Now, the quid's in for land and property services, and ultimately yourselves as a council is when that's revalued, that's going to be paying more rates. So you're using the rating system, turn it from a disabler into an enabler. Things like revamping the rates hardship fund. I mean, all of you has dealt with businesses in your wards where you have lost trade because of public realm, flooding, or anywhere else. It's very, very hard to get immediate relief out to those businesses. Strengthen the town centre first retail planning policy. There are still far too many councils that are allowing out of town retail to go forward. This is something that you as councillors can do. I know obviously the planning committee within your council is ultimately the decision maker there. But if you look at certainly Derry City Centre, we do need to be making sure that any new retailers, whether they're independent or multiple, come to the city centre first. And rather than going to Crescent Link or Buncrana Road, that you are adopting a strong town centre first approach. And if you cast your mind back years ago when Primark was coming to Derry, with a lot of imagination, particularly from this council, they actually got it into a city centre site, which is a fantastic footfall driver. And we see the same for Primark in Belfast as well. We're calling the High Street Task Force. I was one of the chairs of that task force, the executive set up. In the last Assembly mandate, we were able to produce an agreed report with some 33 business, trade union and voluntary sector organisations, all the key executive departments and the councils as well. And one of the reasons why that we want that High Street Task Force recalled by the executive, because it was the one body that brought together all the different players, and the executive at times can be quite a dysfunctional, siloed. And this was the one body that brought together all of the key departments, councils, business, and so on. High street policy, is scattered across half a dozen different departments. We're working with the DERA minister about the dilapidation bill, which I hope would be a positive thing for you. Giving councils power over regeneration, I think, is important as well, rather than having to keep referring back to the Minister for Communities. But I think that maybe if I can just conclude, our vision, and it relates to what I've said at the start about Halloween, it's all about creating that experience. It's all about an ecosystem approach to high streets. It's about ensuring that they are spaces that encourage socializing, culture, creativity, health, well-being, and learning. People that choose to visit. And quite often, I'm asked, what does 21st century high streets in town and city centres look like? It's not rocket science. It's fun, family-friendly, clean and green destinations that people want to come back time and time again. And the independent retailers that we represent are an integral part of that, offering something different and distinctive. So I am optimistic if we get the right approach from councils to the executive, to the Westminster government, and we're even talking to the Shared Island Fund in Dublin. We led a very big delegation down there and we're hosted by the Taoiseach. So we're open to talking to anyone. I do believe that this is not about managing decline when it comes to our high streets. It is about managing the future. And with the right partnership approach, I really do believe we can make a difference. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Glenn. So I think everybody here would be in agreement that we want to see vibrant and thriving city and town centres right across this council area. And one of the main ways to do it is to make it more affordable for businesses to survive by cutting costs. So I know that this document or these proposals were produced back in April. Have you had any feedback from Stormont to date, or have you presented to any committees with these proposals? Because most of them, as you'll agree, are within the remit of various Stormont departments. But if you can give us some feedback on that, and then I'll just open it up to the floor, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we've engaged pretty much all of the ministers, First Deputy, First Minister, Finance, Economy, DERA, all of them were. And it's very much about, not rehearsing what the problem is, but what the solution is. And I do believe if we get the right partnership approach between councils, executive, Westminster, and any other government that has influence, then I think we can make the difference. I think we are very disappointed the executive has not reconstituted the High Street Task Force, because I think in that last mandate, when they produced that final report in 2022, at the heart of what it said was a 5-year reconstruction plan for high streets. And that's something that I think councils have a lot of skin in the game of. But so it's ensuring what councils do, what executive does, and whatever other government business, call it what you like, are all aligned and pushing on the one direction. And it's not necessarily about more money. It's about working clever. It's about working more strategically, and it's about ensuring there is that partnership. I absolutely do believe we can, as I said, turn this around and create something different and distinctive, in all our high streets.
Thanks for that, Glenn. So the first indicated speaker is Alderman Cook, Chelsea.
Chair, for letting me in, and thanks to Glenn for the deputation to us here today. I would just like to put on record on behalf of the DUP our thanks to Retail NI for your continued commitment to support our local independent retailers and high streets. Your work plays a vital role in championing the voices of small businesses, and that's the businesses that are at the heart of our communities. The issues that you've raised today around the business rates and town centre regeneration, they resonate strongly with us as aldermen and councillors, and we do recognise the challenges that our local traders face, especially in the local economic climate. And we do share your goal of creating thriving, vibrant high streets. And thanks for your proactive approach as well, Glenn, to addressing the issues that your members are facing as well. So just thanks again for the work that you do, because when our local businesses succeed, our communities succeed as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Next indicated speaker is Councillor Mooney. Sean.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Glenn, for coming down. And it's just, is there someone in here? Some echo there. But I'll carry on anyway. Thanks very much, Johnny. Really kind of, Chair asked the question because obviously about the question I was going to maybe ask is about, because it was 6 months ago this was published, and what happened in the interim, anyway. But in one aspect, Glenn, I think it's number 2 where it says, about the town centre first retail planning policy. I can update you that our council in July struck its LDP, the new one, and part of our LDP on page 139, one of our policies is RP1, and it's city town centre first. So it was obviously in the last and the outdated policy or the previous policy, but it's very much that I can say that I sat on the planning committee up until July this year, and any of those applications came in. The planning officers in our council were obligated to obviously look at the city centre first, and then it's on the sequential test. But obviously this is actually in our new document, so it's there anyway. I don't know how much the department can do unless they strengthen it, but I can assure you and your members that it's in our LDP, and obviously that'll be the first point of call for any new business coming to town, that the city centre must be looked at first anyway. But on that basis, I think Rory has covered the rest of it anyway. I'd like to probably endorse that plan. I would have probably a proposal as well, if all our members have to speak anyway. But we propose we pay by the right day, Stormont, on that basis, but I can wait until the end, everybody speaks, but thank you anyway, cheers.
I really appreciate that, Councillor Mooney. I mean, there are things that the infrastructure minister could tighten up in terms of the strategic policy. We're still dealing with councils there that are granting out of town development. And what we're saying is, look, we need to have a town centre, a strong town centre first, because in whatever type of retailer it is, when they locate in the town centre, that generates footfall for all different types of business. And the big challenge that we have now is, it was highlighted actually by the BBC this week, where 25% of our high streets, 25% have vacant. And that is, it's not twice the UK average, but it's not far off, in terms of 14%, which is the working figure. So what we need is, and I think again, councils have a key role to play in that, the new dilapidation bill that's going through Stormont at the minute. We need to ensure that every council has a dereliction plan. Like, what are you going to do with these vacant sites? Is it not necessarily for retail or hospitality, but could it be housing? Could it be service provision? We're working on a plan on how we can enhance our post office network, again, which would help generate footfall. Things like giving post offices dog licenses, that they could do that. That's all about generating footfall. But I don't want to be overleg. I think there's one way you could see the half glass, half full approach, is instead of seeing all these derelict buildings as the failures of yesterday, see them as the new businesses of tomorrow. And I think with the right approach, and fair play to, I think it was Conor Murphy, when he was finance minister, he introduced the Back in Business scheme, which is 50% rates discount for your first 2 years if, as a new business, you take open an empty site. Now, we've got to go further and faster with that and how we can match that up. So again, given the council's power of regeneration, making sure that they can vest these sites and get a faster turnaround. And likewise, when you have probably not far of a quarter of Belfast city centre with Tribeca and the Sirocco sites derelict, we have a lot of work, but I think that the opportunity's there. Nobody can say that there's not opportunities and buildings and sites there. There clearly is. So it's how we use that creativity to turn those around.
And the final indicated speaker is Councillor Hutton. Aisling.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Glenn, for your presentation. And I just want to put on record from Sinn Féin the appreciation as well for your continued advocacy, supporting small businesses, local traders, independent retailers. I think the work that you do does make room then for strategic planning, and it does encourage that partnership working, as you have rightfully highlighted, because I feel that that's how we get things done. That's how we all work together when everyone's around the table and advocating and lobbying for better town centres. I suppose Derry as a town centre, I think that it's a really beautiful town centre because we've got the city walls within. I think we're in good footing in relation to Austin's being redeveloped, but there's always more room for improvement. You think of the city deal stuff that's coming down the line. We're going to have a new leisure centre within the town centre in Strabane. You're also looking at the public realm scheme throughout the whole district as well. You've got a new college moving into the town centre of Strabane. So I think the work that's being done at the minute and some of the investments that have been signed off and secured, we're going to see that progression to that commitment to ensuring that our town centres are the best that they can be. But I think organisations like yourself, the surveys that you carry out, are at the heart of it all, of all the decision making, because at the end of the day, you're putting in the work, gathering the information from the retailers and the traders. So it's important that we listen to you, and it's important that that task force is set up and remains a constant within any decision making. But thank you for the work that you do. As I say, it's a good way of supporting policy and policymakers in relation to decision making as well. So thanks for coming in today, Glenn, and I wish you all the very best of luck with any future plans that you do have.
And the actual final indicated speaker is Alderman Hussey.
Thanks again for the opportunity, and very welcome then. Obviously, I heard this first in Belfast in the Harbour Commissioner's office. I think it was where the first presentation was made. And it was out of that that I proposed to council that you should come down. I think it's important that you are here because quite often we in our neck of the woods find things to be Belfast centric. And it's important that we get beyond Belfast and the greater Belfast area. And within this chamber, I will also argue that you heard me at the beginning. It's important that we get beyond Derry City and its confines. I think it's already been hinted at. This was back in April. Is there any changes that you're noticing within the figures that have been presented there, firstly, with regard to possible job losses with expansion plans? Is there any indication that there could be a reversal or it's getting worse on the figures that are being presented there? And you mentioned, the post office with regard to footfall, critical mass within any street, a major issue for many of our smaller communities. The banks aren't there anymore. And, is there any indication that that can be reversed? Because you mentioned the 25% vacancy rate, vacancy rates in towns. I would suggest to you that in our rural settlements, it's a hell of a lot higher than that. And has it reached a point of no return within our rural communities? I know that retail and I suppose there is naturally enough a concentration on the cities and the bigger towns, but would your membership in the rural areas be suggesting that we've reached a point of no return here? And if so, what advice do you think can be given to ourselves, to the Northern Ireland Executive, and to our UK government? This is something you have to address because it's impacting on so many of our citizens throughout Northern Ireland, throughout the United Kingdom, British Isles, wherever. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey, and thank you for the invite. I wouldn't be doing this job if I didn't believe we could turn it around. And we represent members in every village, town, and city. And one of the things that I think is very clear that there are certainly many of those rural communities, rural business, rural independent retailers, they don't at times feel the love. They feel that sometimes their voice has not been heard. In a lot of areas, there isn't a Chamber of Commerce or Traders Group. Now, we've been proactively trying to regenerate that network. We've pulled together some 30 different chambers of commerce bids, including Strabane bid and Derry Chamber as well, in a broader alliance to try and force these issues. So I do believe it can be turned around. If you look at places like Ballymoney, who's won our High Street Hero Awards twice, and it's based on a public vote. Coleraine won it this year again. Ballycastle has won it. And so what you're really seeing is where there's a strong Chamber of Commerce Traders Group, then that's an important starting point. I think the councils have a key role in jump-starting that at times. And we've now got Dromore Chamber in County Down resurrected, and so you're seeing new ones come up. I think in relation to the banks, I don't believe that can be reversed. But because 75% of the post offices are now within our member stores, most of the ATMs are now in our member stores and our grocery and convenience members. What we're saying is that instead of going down the road of these banking hubs, do a post office first approach. And what that means is giving post offices more council functions, more functions from the executive, indeed central UK government as well. Also about increasing the deposit limit. Now, this is something the banks could do. Whereas many rural businesses who bank with the post offices are limited about the size of the deposit they can put in. That could be changed. So what you're doing is, again, it's not costing any money. You're giving the post office network a real shot in the arm, which is going to drive footfall for the business that's in, but also the surrounding businesses as well. So I do believe that is something we're working on, a document which we're going to launch in the new year. Happy to come back and present to you on that. But, we've had the Horizon scandal, so that network needs a shot in the arm. It needs to be rejuvenated, and we believe it can with the right approach. But I think that in terms of, again, what does the future look like? Again, it is how in those towns, in areas like Newtownards in particular, Newtownards has done really well. You compare it next door to Bangor. What is Newtownards' unique selling point? It's independent retailer. You have businesses there that you won't get in Belfast, you won't get your band Bangor, and that's what drives that. But it's more than that, because we're selling now the experience. We're selling, what you can't get online, because that's the other elephant in the room, is online. But you can't get a Halloween online. Maybe you could, but certainly you couldn't have the crack that you're going to have at Derry City Centre in a few weeks' time. So I think that so how do we do more of that, which generates footfall, gets the bed nights, gets people supporting hospitality, retail. It's more of that we need to do. It's how we create those experiences, how we create that fun, family-friendly destination feel. That's what you can't get out of Amazon, but you can get with the right approach. And I suppose very simply, it's about putting the social into the shopping experience. Our closest ally is Hospitality Ulster. We can't do high streets without retail and hospitality. We're two sides of the same coin. So yeah, we want to work. We're up for obviously working with all 11 councils, and we'll take a solution-based approach working through the problems. But also, we're trying to sort of get some new thinking there in terms of what does the future look like.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Tom.
So, Glenn, that was really, really informative, really, really useful. Councillor Mooney has a proposal that we endorse the 5-point plan, that we write to the relevant Stormont ministers. So do you want to speak to that, Councillor Mooney, just to make sure everybody agrees?
Well, thank you, Chair. I mean, I was just probably thinking it may be easier to maybe send it to the Executive Office, and then they can pass it out to the relevant departments just as a recipient postbox as such, and they can then obviously, because the 5-point plan would prefer, like, the tougher fines would be the justice and things like that. So there's certain departments that would probably take up the issues. So it's really just that, So thank you, Chair. Thank you, Glenn.
Clarificate just really on some of the points about the sentencing bill, which the Assembly has greenlit this week. So the sentencing bill will have the assault of retail staff. First time that brings us in line with other parts of these islands. Now, there is an opportunity there about shoplifting fines, but that's a cost of business issue as well. I think in terms of PCSPs, there's a lot more they should be doing. I mean, one of the things in that survey, we did a survey the year before, which showed not a lot of our members even knew what a PCSP was.
So is everybody in agreement with Councillor Mooney's proposal? No dissent online, and we need a seconder. I've been reliably informed. Councillor McDade. So, Glenn, thank you very much for coming. We're going to write the relevant Stormont departments. I understand the Executive Office is in charge of the High Street Task Force, so I think it is appropriate that it goes there. And obviously, any response we get to that correspondence will be shared with yourself. And we do hope that there is progress in the near future, because our town and city centres really, really need that support. So thank you very much for attending today. It's been a pleasure. Right, so next item on the agenda is item 7, which is matters arising from the previous meeting. So do we have anyone? Councillor McDade, Catherine?
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to, it's BC 14825. About Palestine, I was planning on cautiously welcoming the ceasefire, but I seen last night and today that there's been drones dropped and children injured again with booby traps in Palestine. So I don't even know if I want to cautiously welcome it, but I will cautiously welcome the ceasefire and the commitment to releasing all the hostages on both sides. There is a 20-minute walkout in workplaces on Thursday at 1 p.m. And this is, I would encourage everyone to go along to it, to walk out of your work, take 20 minutes. It's over lunchtime. It's a peaceful vigil, just to keep that pressure up. I think that we need to maintain pressure on our governments until all the hostages are released, until Benjamin Netanyahu is put on trial for the war crimes that he has been found guilty of already. He needs to be put on trial. and until the occupation ends, until Palestine's free. So I think that we need to continue with our walkouts, continue with our vigils, continue with our boycotting until all that's done. Just because someone has announced there's a ceasefire we can't believe it until we see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Next indicated speaker is Councillor Harkin. Is it on this item?
Thanks, but I do have another item as well. But if I can speak to this first.
Fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McDade, for making sure that we have the opportunity to discuss what's happened in Gaza today. And obviously, I agree with your comments that we have to welcome a ceasefire. It's clearly bringing relief to people in Gaza. It's disappointing to see that there are still people getting killed in Gaza. And it was, I can only describe what I seen today with Trump celebrating Netanyahu, calling for him to be pardoned by the Israeli parliament, talking about the demand on America to provide all sorts of weaponry to kill and slaughter Palestinians. And I think that we're talking about people who are complicit in war crimes, standing on the graves of Palestinians and celebrating it. So the ceasefire doesn't equal a Palestinian state, doesn't equal Palestinian self-determination. And for all those reasons, I think we have to continue to boycott the Israeli state economically, politically, and militarily, that the demands don't change until we end occupation and apartheid. And bring those accountable for genocide to justice. And I want to commend everybody that participated in the call, the BDS movement call from Omar Barghouti and others around this September 18th. We had 4 schools in Derry that participated: McGee University, Ardnashee, St. Bridget's, and St. Joseph's all participated in the lunchtime standouts for Gaza. And I think that fair play to the teachers, administrators, and students that participated in that. And as Councillor McDade said, this Thursday there is a standout for Gaza at lunchtime. It's an all-Ireland initiative. It's supported by the Derry Trades Union Council. It's supported by the Health Workers for Palestine across Ireland. It's supported by the Dublin Trade Union Council. It's not a strike. And what we're asking people to do is that if they can, and for those who are willing, to stand out at lunchtime for 15 minutes at their workplace in solidarity with Palestine. I will be joining all our council workers in the front of the Guildhall, and I would encourage all councillors and aldermen to join with staff and anybody else that is in the city centre to join with us on Thursday, 1 o'clock, in front of the Guildhall, to be part of this all-Ireland standout for Gaza. And I think we have to continue to be vigilant in terms of what's happening there. And the coming years, I think we're going to have to continue to stand in solidarity and campaign for Gaza and for the West Bank and for Palestinian self-determination. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sean. And Sean, before you come on your second item, Alderman Hussey has already indicated he wishes to speak, but I'm going to ask him, is that on this item, Derek? It is? Yeah, okay, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. And like others, I welcome the first steps, baby steps, in the proposed ceasefire that have emerged. But at the same time, I'm concerned as to how that ceasefire is going to progress to the eventual aim that was suggested in the 20-point plan or whatever it was. And I think we do have to congratulate all those involved in putting that together. It would not have been easy. And it's not unflawed. Let's be honest about that. Mention has been made of drones being dropped. I haven't seen any news about that today. I don't know what's been happening today. But what I did see was Hamas on the streets executing fellow Palestinian citizens. And that hasn't been mentioned by anyone so far. No. Is there a condemnation of that as well? I've said that there is 2 sides. There are 2 sides to this ongoing situation in Gaza and the West Bank. Let's admit that there are 2 sides and call out something that's wrong, if it happens to be on the side of, that sometimes we ignore, that cannot be forgotten. The presence of Hamas will continue to be an issue in Gaza going forward. How it is dealt with, I'm not sure, but let's see if it can be dealt with on all sides going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Derek. My own personal view on it is that, what Hamas did on October the 7th, 2 years ago, was reprehensible, disgusting, but equally, the Israeli response was completely disproportionate. It was collective punishment against the entire Palestinian population for the actions of a very, very small minority. And in terms of the 20-point plan, I agree with you. In terms of a two-state solution, Netanyahu, before the ink was dry in the 20-point plan, said he was going to forcibly resist any sort of Palestinian statehood. So let's hope there's peace. Let's hope it's sustained. And let's hope Netanyahu changes his mind very shortly, because unless there is a two-state solution, this is going to continue for decades. Councillor Hart?
Just want to echo, from Sinn Féin's perspective, that we agree with Catherine and the other speakers, welcome the peace, and the hostages have been released from both sides, because there's thousands of Palestinians that have been held in Israeli jail without trial. So it's good that those hostages held by Israel and those held by Hamas have been released to their families, and that has to be welcomed. We know by our own experience and our own troubles that the only way to get things resolved is come together in a peaceful way, and the two-state solution is the only way, I think, that there can be lasting peace for both Palestinians and Israelis. Thank you.
And final indicated speaker on this item is Catherine McDaid.
Thank you for letting me come back in. I suppose I just wanted to make the comment about Alderman Hussey has repeatedly mentioned about the two sides, and I suppose I've been remiss to be very clear that I condemn any innocent person being killed. Doesn't matter where they're from, who they are, what they support, what colour skin they have. Both sides, I condemn any innocent person being killed, and I think I probably haven't said that enough. And I think that you keep saying it back, and I feel that I need to acknowledge it so that you do know that I do condemn death no matter what. I don't want that, nobody should be murdered. But I think the chair has been very clear. If someone came in and burgled my house and hurt my husband, it doesn't give me a right to go and kill everybody in their community just because that one person did it. So it is about proportionality as well. So, but thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Harkin, you had another item and matters arising.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's BC 145. We had two representatives from the Department of Communities in at the last meeting to discuss the imminent closure of Echo Dance Studio, and unfortunately that has now come to pass, and I'm sure everyone will have read the statement that Echo put up on their Facebook page on September 26th, announcing their closure on September 30th. And that statement is moving. It includes an acknowledgement that this is a devastating loss to Derry and the district and the Northwest. And it also thanks everyone, including the council, that attempted to stand with Echo and campaign to see it continue its good work. It does state that they have an ongoing complaint now with the Ombudsman, and I hope that will demonstrate that Echo shouldn't have received the devastating cut that it has received. So I think this is the first time we've had an opportunity to discuss the closure here at committee. And if we haven't done it, look, I do think we should write to the Communities Minister to express our disappointment that he or they didn't ultimately decide to intervene to sustain funding for the Echo. And I think that they should also outline how this closure will not further entrench regional disparity in the Northwest when it comes to dance provision in particular, but also arts and culture provision in general. I think that there needs to be ongoing follow-up on this, because we can't let this one go, because look, as a council, as councillors and aldermen, we fought very hard with Echo to do everything we could to try and undo the damage that was done by the Arts Council decision. And I think that the department did dangle in front of us and in front of Echo the possibility that they would step in to actually provide funding. And they ultimately haven't done that. And I think that that is further, frustrating for us, and I'm sure for Echo. So if the chair agrees, I would like to propose that we do that.
Sean, could you clarify exactly what you mean? Because there was quite a number of words used there. And I'm not being flippant. If you could email Teresa just a succinct proposal in terms of the purpose of that letter, please.
Can I put that in the chat, Chair?
That's fine. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Harkin. Has everybody had a chance to read it? And could we get a seconder? Sean Mooney, happy to second.
How about I second the proposal, Chair?
So is there any dissent? None? So, that passes unanimously. So any further items in terms of matters arising? Derek?
Very briefly, 154, the sound system, is there any update on that?
So I'm reliably informed it's imminent. We're waiting for just the break in between the schedule, but all the initial works have been done, so we'll get it fitted. So hopefully it'll be done this month.
Thanks for that update. I just want to reference one thing in matters arising. We did have the delegation from Katrina Strain at Airnecht. What we had agreed was that we were going to write to the Minister for the Economy. We have done that, and the response from the Minister for the Economy was that she has written to Hilary Benn. So that has been actioned. That'll probably appear in the correspondence at full council. So that's been done. So we don't know what the Secretary of State's going to do about that, but we've done what we've said we were going to do. So that's good. So moving on to the body of the meeting, we've got Kevin to take us through item 8, which is the Strabane bid.
Thanks, Chair. This item is actually quite timely given the presentation that Glenn just made in terms of retail NI. But members, the purpose of this report is to request approval from members to support a programme of delivery during the festive period by Strabane bid. free off-street car parking on 5 Saturdays leading up to Christmas 2025, and it seeks support towards the cost of providing stalls and cabins with associated light installations for the Strabane Christmas market. Members will be aware that last year we were able to support the free parking and make a contribution towards the Christmas market, which was typically community run in previous years. So these initiatives are aimed to encourage footfall, support local businesses, and promote the town centre as an attractive festive shopping destination. What I would say is that, and members are well aware of this, is that obviously council works very closely with the Strabane bid and everything that it does in terms of its promotional activity. And when I say council, that's many different areas within council: the events team, the marketing team, our cleansing team, grounds maintenance, the business support team, the teams that are involved in the Christmas lighting, that type of thing. So it's a really collective effort in terms of what they're proposing. As I said, in 2024, the bid, in collaboration with Council's events teams, planned a programme of festive animation, which included the Christmas market. If you remember, it was really bad weather that day, and a lot of frantic effort was made to try to move that market indoors. That definitely had an impact in terms of the footfall and stuff like that. So the ever optimistic team want to try and do that again on the 22nd of November, and that coincides with the Christmas lights switch on, and hope that the weather's better. And they work alongside community partners to boost trade, footfall, and create a new festive experience in the town centre itself. So within the report, you can see some of the figures and facts around the support for the free off-street car parking, and in 3.2 you can see the financial implications. So that's a maximum, so there's up to a maximum of 3,650 would be required to match the lost revenue. The Strabane bid will allocate a lot of its budget around the marketing for the campaign, and they do an awful lot in terms of the gift card. It's been a major success over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of the uplift and figures around revenue generated from the gift card, which then obviously gets spent locally at local businesses. You can see the details there in relation to the Christmas market. So the 2025 one provides a significant opportunity for local traders to showcase their products, attract new customers, and benefit from increased seasonal footfall. To deliver a quality market and provide sustainable trading facilities, bid is requesting additional funding to cover the hire and installation of stalls and cabins with associated lighting installations, etc., etc. You can see the benefits are detailed within the report itself. So the recommendation is that members are asked to note the contents of the report and provide financial assistance for the 5 free parking days in Strabane Town Centre, centre's off-street car parks, and to support the provision of stalls and cabins with associated lighting installations to support and complement the festive activity within the town centre.
Thank you, Kevin. So the first and only indicated speaker is Councillor Hart. Brian.
Thanks, Chair. As you said, Kevin, it's timely that we had Glenn in here and outlined the views of retail NI and how that they could improve, the footfall in town centres and what we can do for businesses. And the free car parking coming up to Christmas is an excellent idea. That was a motion that was brought by my colleague, Councillor Paul Boggs, last year. And from all accounts from businesses, it was well received. So to see that being repeated this year, I think it's only a good thing. So I'm happy to propose that. In relation to the Christmas market and the cabins, I think that'll also contribute, to the increase in footfall and something that we can build year on year. I'd just like to put on the record as well the good work that Strabane bid are doing. I think they are an essential tool that we need to utilise in improving our town centres, and I think they're doing a great job. And you referenced the gift card, and from the figures that I've seen, it continues to increase. So I just want to put on record about the good work that the Strabane bid has done. So happy to propose. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Second indicated speaker is Councillor McDade. Catherine.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to second it. Thanks for the report, and I think anything we can do to increase footfall, and I'm optimistic. End of November, it'll still be nice weather. The lights will be coming on, there'll be music, hot chocolate. I'm sure it'll be brilliant, and everyone will love it. Everyone will be in the spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I think Alderman Hussey has also
Yeah.
indicated.
Thank you again for the opportunity, Chair, and concur with the two previous speakers. That whole issue, I didn't mention it to done there, that issue of critical mass populist footfall is vital, and this can only assist in bringing that footfall into Strabane Town Centre. Quick query on the stalls and cabins. How many days will they be in situ? And will the licensing department be looking for street trading licenses for each of those stalls? Or will it be a collective license for all of them?
One day, and in the past, it's an event, so generally it's one license for the event, but I'd need to double check on that.
I welcome that precedent and will follow up on it. Thank you.
Okay, folks, so there was no dissent there, and it was proposed by Councillor Hart, seconded by Councillor McDade. So item 9 is cultural grant aid, and we've got Aileen to take us through this paper.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. Members, this really is a follow-up from the detailed report that we brought last month on cultural grant aid programmes. It specifically refers, this report is an update really on the community festivals consensual grant aid model proposal, and just to seek your approval on a transition fund to alleviate the negative impact on one particular DEA, which has been particularly successful in this competitive process of the last 6 years. It's also to seek your approval for the proposed pilot implementation of a consensual grant aid making model within the individual artist and cultural practitioner award, and to agree an approach for the financial year 2026-27, including the composition of the assessment panel. Members, you'll know the detail that we brought to you last month around the consensual grant aid model that we're proposing for the community festivals funding. We have been undertaking consultation with the respective groups, all of whom agree with the proposal in principle, but it's become clear in the detailed analysis of the previous 6 years funding and following further discussions with, in particular, the DARE DA, that through this process they will receive an allocation of 12.87 in line with the other DAs, but they have been receiving on average a 19% of the funding over the past 6 years. So it is proposed, members, and the detail in this report is that that they shouldn't really be impacted by, they shouldn't be victims of their own success. And its officers are recommending that a transition fund be made available to the DARE DEA over the next 3 years of £10,000 each year in order to minimise this impact. And it's worth noting there, while 2 other regions, the Moor and the Faughan, look like there is a cut in funding to these events, the further analysis would indicate that some of these events are candidates for the large-scale local events funds that's been proposed. So effectively it takes them out of that and means that they're not impacted in the same way. I know some of these figures are complex, and we're happy to go through those in detail separately with any members that would like us to take them through it. But we have been in discussions with all of the groups. So that's the main proposal as regards the community festival proposal for the consensual grant aid model. The other proposal is for, as you know, we proposed that the Arts and Culture Co-Delivery Group pilot a consensual grant aid model utilising 7,450 underspend from this current financial year. So the pilot would aim to test that consensual model. Those obviously it'll be in line with the other consensual processes. It would be subject to the agreement of council. So it is also proposed in discussions with the co-delivery group that there is an individual artist budget for 26-27 earmarked, and it's proposed that 19,000 of this would be allocated as normal under the individual artist and cultural practitioner award, but that £7,000 would be retained to carry on the consensual model into the financial year 26-27. The co-delivery group has recommended that 5 nominations be sought from within its current membership to consider and direct this expenditure. This process will be supported by council officers, and as in line with the other consensual models, all final award with the community festivals, all final awards will be ratified by council. Participation, I know there was a query last month, participation in the consensual allocation process by a member of the co-delivery group would require a completion of a declaration of interest, and clearly a participant couldn't be a beneficiary of the same funding stream in which they take part in the decision making of. Obviously, both models will be evaluated by council officers and by the co-delivery group, and we would bring an end of period review would be taken to inform how we take forward this. But members, the main recommendations are to award the sum of £10,000 to a transition fund for the DERG DEA as part of the Community Festival consensual model, and members that you approve the proposed approach for the Individual Artist and Cultural Practitioner Award for 26 and 27. Including the allocation of £19,000 to its core fund and £7,000 to continued consensual pilot. So happy to take any questions or comments.
Yeah, thank you, Aideen. So the first indicated speaker is Councillor Devine. Caroline?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me come in. I'm not a member of committee, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to thank Aideen and the officers for bringing forward the proposal for the transition fund for the DERG area. The shortfall in the funding for this new model was discussed at our most recent Growth Partnership Board, and I can safely say there was a lot of concern from the groups there in the DERG area that they were being punished for being so successful in previous years. So I really appreciate that officers took on board my suggestion that at the meeting that we would explore maybe the possibility of some kind of a transition fund kind of to buffer that impact on the DERG group so that they wouldn't be disadvantaged moving forward. Alderman Hussey mentioned earlier about the events coming up at Halloween, and our community groups in the DERG run a number of really successful events throughout the year. And that Community Festival Fund plays a really essential role in helping those groups to run events in our rural areas, particularly where deprivation and social isolation are significant challenges. And residents may not have the means to travel to bigger events that happen in the city. The funding obviously doesn't cover all of the costs, and the groups do need to raise funds, but without that funding, these events just simply wouldn't run. And these smaller community events, I suppose, are very different from the major tourist events that happen, like Halloween and the Jazz Festival, because they bring our local people together, they strengthen our communities, and they play a really vital part in tackling isolation and promoting good relations. So it's important that we do everything we can to make sure that these local festivals and events continue into the future. So thanks for bringing that report, and I'm really delighted to see that that is going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. And the only other indicated speaker we have is Alderman Hussey, and I am conscious that Caroline and Derek, neither of you are members of the committee, so we're going to need people here to propose in second. So, Derek?
Thank you, Chair. And Caroline's covered a hell of a lot of this stuff. Caroline said there that there was concern at our growth partnership meeting. I would go as far as to say there was dismay when the initial figures were coming out. And I think a solution has been found to the situation that the DERG would find itself in. I think it's important to recognise that the DERG is not a single autonomous DEA. It has Newton Stewart, Cyan Mills, Castle Derg, and within those three very strong communities, you have all of these activities taking place, which is how come there has been the high level of grant takedown over the years. As has been mentioned, they're victims of our own success. But hopefully the proposal going forward will be endorsed by committee and further by council to enable the area not to suffer through its own success going forward. And I sincerely thank officers who have looked into this and come up with a solution that I think will find approval within the entire DERG area. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we need a proposer. Right, so I think, oh, sorry. Would you like to speak, Ashley?
Just to propose the paper and obviously checking on the concerns that Derek and Caroline have highlighted. And one of them is in relation to providing those types of activities in areas of high deprivation. And we see that firsthand throughout the seasonal events and through the organisations that do apply for the funding. I think the consensual grant making approach is fair and it gives everybody a chance to partake. But I just wanted to ask about and you did mention it, Aileen, about communicating with the organisations and that transition and process. So will you remain connected to them throughout? And I suppose it'll go through just all the neighbourhood renewal areas and that'll be a decision that'll be made within the development groups. But they will be given an opportunity to speak to officers and they know what consensual grant making is, but this is a new process and I just wanted to ensure the support's going to be there for them.
So that's proposed by Councillor Hutton and seconded by Councillor McDade. No dissent. And our final item open for decision is item 10. And we've got Kevin to take us through the employability and skills delivery update.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to provide you with an update on the delivery of the Employability and Skills Service for this financial year and provide support for a range of skills initiatives. As members may or may not be aware, actually, the Skills Service works strategically with partners to coordinate the effective delivery of the employment and skills agenda within the city, district and the wider region to realize its economic potential through the coordination of the education and skills delivery partnership. So the skills team within Council currently coordinates the Council Area Apprenticeship Forum and as a member of the Northern Ireland Wide Apprenticeship Working Group. Council also provides strategic support to schools, apprenticeship providers and industry, in addition to the delivery of the marketing support to the annual apprenticeship week, which happens every February. Skills team also and more are providing mentoring support to Council's apprentices, the apprentices that are currently employed within the local authority and actively work across the organisation to support and promote apprenticeship opportunities to existing and new employees. The Education Skills Delivery Partnerships coordinated and overseen by Council and it's tasked with coordinating on the outcomes identified within the Strategic Growth Plan. They're listed in item 3.1. That partnership is made up of representation from industry, from education, further and higher, from the community and voluntary sector, career service, the various executive departments, Invest NI, schools sector, both in Derry and in Strabane, and the Labour Market Partnership. It delivers across the 5 subgroups that are listed within the report. And in terms of the actual service itself, Council Skills Services will support a number of specific skills interventions, in addition to a whole lot of other stuff, I would say too, that isn't necessarily included within this report, around employability and skills, sometimes initiatives which we've brought to you before that government departments bring to us and ask us to deliver on their behalf, in addition to the Labour Market Partnership. But the 3 initiatives listed within the report is one, the first one's around building skills and social value together workshop, and it's planned to hold this event in January 2026. And that event will partner with the social economy sector of the Northwest. I know that there's mention of the Community Wealth Building Hub Conference, which is happening tomorrow. Work with the Northwest Community Wealth Building Hub, the Northwest Regional College and the Community and Voluntary and Employability sector. And that's really going to be around trying to talk about the gaps in provision around apprenticeships and how we deliver and potentially develop a shared apprenticeship model, how that will then support the inclusive sort of aspirations of City Deal, specifically around construction, around skills gaps, stuff that we've talked about in this committee previously, and also to understand how better to equip the voluntary community sector and smaller contractors to engage with social value in a meaningful and achievable way. So that'll be one that'll be delivered through the skills team itself. The other 2 initiatives are external initiatives, albeit council support with officer involvement, and that's the GEMEX Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative Network. And that was an initiative actually that grew out of Council's skills team many years ago, and it's had great traction to the point now that it's fully funded and supported through external sources, really, and very much industry-led. You can see within the report there's 40+ manufacturing and engineering organisations from right across this district, and actually across the Northwest City region too, in terms of Donegal, who are involved in that. And that's really about working across the sector to ensure that the sector has the people that it needs to be able to grow, that it's also can understand the technology that it needs, and just to really develop this really brilliant cluster that has grown up within the Northwest from a manufacturing perspective. And that's not something that we probably could have said 10 years ago. People obviously typically talk about Mid-Ulster in terms of manufacturing, but when you look at the organisations that are in this area, you can see a really strong proposition here. So the support that Council will lend will be around the schools coordination and around creating ambition within our schools and our school children around STEM and around pursuing a career in engineering or in manufacturing, promoting the opportunities that exist, helping schools better map out a pathway towards apprenticeships, and the various different career pathways exist, not all university pathways, but also including that as a pathway to employment within that sector. So the GEMX has done great work, and this is going to be around the Make Me Academy, which has been really, really successful, but a very challenging area to work. And actually, in terms of coordinating all of these schools and making sure that we get representation and really promote this as a viable sector for employment and growth within this region. Then the final area is around Maths Week Ireland, which is actually happening this week. But Maths Week, if you didn't know, it's the largest event of its kind in the world, actually, with more than 500,000 pupils and members of the public participating each year. It's in its 20th year now, and the annual Maths Week Ireland Festival provides opportunities for schools and members of the public to positively engage with maths by facilitating a wide range of in-person and online events. And the support that the Council is able to provide is around supporting the ability for schools to public transport support, basically, for schools to come to the Guildhall and other venues. And again, the schools that will be supported, they're right across the council area, not just in Derry and Strabane, but also in Castlederg. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of the report. The details around the finances are included in 4.2, and the recommendation is to note the contents of the report and endorse the recommendation to support the skills initiatives highlighted in item 3.3.
Thanks for that, Kevin. So we've got online, we've got Alderman Middleton has indicated to speak, then Councillor McDade, then Councillor O'Farrell, and then Alderman. Oh, so I completely missed Conor Heaney. So Conor, you're first. My apologies, Julie.
No problem, Chair. No, listen, it was just I work in the employability and skills sector myself and work closely with council officers, and a lot of what Kevin was talking about, and I just wanted to declare an interest from that perspective. We're one of the partners that they work with, so felt I need to come and do that.
Noted. Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in, and on behalf of the DUP, thank you, Kevin, for the report. We're happy to endorse the points that need to be endorsed. The report actually makes for exciting reading, and I personally believe that more than likely all of us are enthused about the upcoming plans. Kevin, may I ask, please, and it doesn't have to be now if you don't have it, but if there's any further details to be brought forward about how people from the rural areas of our district, specifically the Faughn, can be actively included in these plans without having to travel to the city locations, with rural isolation in play, reduced bus timetables, and some of my residents don't have access to a car. I would love to see that put in play or in place if possible. And I also wanted to ask what the plans are for inclusive delivery of the things that were outlined in regards to people with special educational needs and disabilities. It is important to note that we need to provide equitable provision for people with learning and physical disabilities. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the queries. So I'll deal with the inclusivity and special educational needs. So what I would say is that certainly around the GMX and the Maths Week stuff, you know, actually the target sort of audiences for those types of initiatives actually are those people who have those needs. And so those events are, and the collaborations and are a lot of those are done within the school setting, basically. So in the schools right throughout this district. So those have obviously got the support mechanisms in place to be able to ensure that they are inclusive from that point of view. In terms of some of the events that take place, whether it's in the city, a lot of those events are also online. So that's, you know, opens up the access. But, you know, the majority of this stuff is actually done within school settings, and that's the target audience. So hopefully I've answered both of those actually. Yeah.
That's super, Kevin. Thanks for your answers there. And again, we are happy to endorse. Thank you.
So Julie, are you proposing the item?
I am indeed. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So next indicated speaker is Councillor McDade. Catherine.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Kevin. And there's a real echo. I'm happy to second the report. I suppose everyone's kind of covered it already, but I wanted to mention the apprenticeships because I didn't really know about the apprenticeships until like maybe a year and a half ago, and people have spoken to me about them and how historically the difference it's made for people in their lives. So I think it's really good just to acknowledge that. And I suppose anything that we're doing to kind of give people skills and confidence to get into kind of employment in any ways is obviously really important, and we would be endorsing that. But I just wanted to kind of congratulate all the officers involved. Thank you for the report. I mentioned Maths Week. So my wee boy's coming on Thursday to the Guildhall and he is so excited for it. I don't know what's actually even going to happen when he's there, but he is like, came home from school yesterday and I had to sign the permission slip instantly. Like, so we're numbers coming out of our ears in my house this week for Maths Week, which is fun. But thank you very much for the report.
Councillor O'Farrell.
To roll an arm. There's the echo again. Roll an arm. Is that any better? Gormil Mogat, Shin Kevin, Tamasha Yenta Sasta, Taka Horton, Don the Multition. I'm just very happy to endorse the recommendations. And for somebody who served an apprenticeship myself, I'm delighted to hear they're going into the schools. I don't know what it's like in the schools now as far as careers officers and stuff like that are concerned. But I think most young people now, when they get into schools, they're thinking about university, you know, and with a huge vacuum, we're going to have it all over because we haven't got the trades. We have no plumbers. We're running out of plumbers, sparks, everything else, you know. And it's music to my ears to hear that these things are happening. And I know they have to have other skills as well, IT skills and all the rest, but the more apprenticeships, the only thing about apprenticeships is I know it's very hard for apprentices to get work anywhere because of insurance reasons and all the rest. But no, I'm delighted that you brought this paper forward. Thank you very much.
And the final indicated speaker is Alderman Hussey. Derek.
Thank you, Chair, and can only agree with all of the comments previously put forward in the chamber. It's very welcome to see what I would see this. It's the opportunity to provide a parity of esteem for vocational skills vis-a-vis academic skills, and that's something that a lot of people have been hoping for a long, long time, and it's coming more into fruition. Couple of questions. It mentions there the 5 companies and the 5 secondary schools. Do we know which that's in the GMEX thing? Do we know which 5 secondary schools are there? Move on then to the Maths Week, and as somebody who loved trigonometry and algebra and maths in general, I'm delighted to see this because I think math skills have gone from a lot of people. Language skills are there still, but actual math skills and working out things in your head and taking a pen and paper and working out things. I'm delighted to see the Maths Week Ireland there in the programme. Councillor Farrell mentioned there the particular skills, and we did hear from the Housing Executive about a lack of skills to enable them to carry out work in their properties. And I notice manufacturing skills and I notice engineering skills, but I don't see construction skills. So are they in there somewhere? They're not actually named, but are they in there somewhere? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for the queries. In terms of the 5 companies, so we know the 5 companies. I actually need to check that the 5 schools are. I don't have it, but the 5 companies are Vertiv, Seagate, DuPont, AE Global, and I think Fleming Agri are the 5 companies. But the purpose of what we're going to be doing is to supercharge that, bring it beyond the 5 and the 5 schools. That was their initial one. GEMX has been going for a long period of time. GEMX wouldn't be focused on construction, but the other item around the social value and the skills, that workshop is going to be around that as a specific theme, and there is the potential that so GEMX came about as a result of it was council that led it, but we got funding from Invest NI for collaborative network. So we originally got 25,000. We did a feasibility study. Then we got phase 2 funding of $250,000. That enabled GEMX to be set up, led by Newprint, I might add, in the city. And it's been able to attract funding from philanthropic funders to, shared island funding to other types of funders. So it's been a really good success. So we would like to replicate that for construction, and that's going to be a theme for that workshop. So yeah, I think that answers your queries. I can tell you what's going to happen in the Guildhall for your child. They're going to do a maths exam. I'm only joking.
You get the answers.
Right. And just the final thing I was going to say, just around apprenticeships. Actually, just yesterday we've confirmed that we'll be having an apprenticeship fair, actually in Strabane in February as part of Apprenticeship Week. So anyway, so that'll be more about promoting apprenticeships and that type of stuff.
That's great, Kevin. Thank you. So can we have a proposer to move on to confidential? Julie proposed. All right.